Văd agresiunea Rusiei împotriva Ucrainei ca preludiul unei confruntări mult mai mari la nivel mondial. Este de fapt o confruntare despre valori, despre viziunile asupra guvernării lumii. Ce se întâmplă în Ucraina este oribil, dar am putea vedea ceva de proporție și mai mare, care să dureze și mai mult, cu impact uriaș asupra tuturor. Această declarație îi aparține ambasadorului Canadei la București, doamna Annick Goulet, și vine în contextul în care ideile care apar dinspre Est sunt complet diferite de cele din vestul lumii. Se mai încheie o misiune diplomatică în România și tragem concluziile în emisiunea de astăzi. Sunt Cristina Cileacu, începe Pașaport diplomatic. Annick Goulet, Ambassador to Romania, Bulgaria and Republic of Moldova, welcome to Diplomatic Passport for the last time in this capacity.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to do a wrap-up interview after so many chances, to discuss during my 3 years.
Ambassador, as I said, you did cover 3 countries from Bucharest, and your mission started in pandemic times, and then the war started in our vicinity. What did you manage to do during your 3 years of missions in this area?
I think surprisingly a lot. You may remember the first time you interviewed me, it was in March 2021, and at that time I was talking about what would be, the focus of my 3-year assignment, and I explained that it would be based on 3 pillars, basically security and defense, around, all the joint operations with Romania under NATO, then the expansion of trade, exchanges inspired by our common goals on environment and clean energy, but also on the value agenda, because we share a lot, we're like-minded in multilateral fora, and we talk about, issues like diversity and inclusion. So those were the 3 pillars, and I'm actually very happy to say that there was a big success across the board for those 3 pillars, despite the pandemic, and maybe to some extent because of the war, because it certainly increased engagement. Romania was key. I think in the last almost 500 days of this aggression in the neighborhood. So we've been engaging very closely on security, of course. Because our second interview was held in Mihail-Kogalnicianu by the Black Sea. So we've had 6 consecutive military deployments from Canada, about 1/3 of a year every year. 3 of those years during my mandate, that was aggression of Ukraine, so Canada was already standing by Romania's side under NATO, doing air surveillance. It was very successful, not only because we helped Romania to intercept some of the incursions that were already happening before the war, but also in terms of military to military training, cooperation, and of course we continue our engagement within NATO. On trade, we focused, of course, as you very well know, we focused a lot on clean energy, on nuclear energy. We already have a very strong cooperation. We've had that for more than 40 years, and we've continued, to explore ways of increasing that engagement. I signed during my mandate an MOU on nuclear cooperation that looks at beyond. We've already been involved, and we will continue to be involved in Chernavoda, either with the refurbishment of the existing plant and reactors, but also, we will look forward forward to new builds, but also maybe SMRs, medical isotopes, and other areas of nuclear cooperation. And of course, for me, one of the personal focus was women, female leadership, and I think we've accomplished quite a lot on that pillar as well. And as you probably know, I was happy to publish actually a translation of a book on female leadership, especially in diplomacy, written by a Romanian diplomat. And for me it was a gift to Romania, because Romania has just celebrated 30 years of being a member of the Francophonie. That was a kind of personal accomplishment as well.
Well, Ambassador, as I said, you represented from Bucharest 3 countries, but each of these countries, Romania, Bulgaria and Republic of Moldova, have their own problems. Can you share with us a broader view as a diplomat that is ending now the mission? How are these countries in a region where a war will still be going on?
Well, they're all extremely strategic to the region and to what is going on, and that's something I saw, of course, over the course of my mandate. In Bulgaria, if I may say a few words, I know it's a bit maybe farther for your audience, but
it's a neighborhood country, so we should know
absolutely
it better.
Bulgaria, of course, has known and is still knowing, some changes, political changes. But I have to say we were able to work closely with Bulgaria, Cameco, that just signed, a big deal for providing nuclear fuel to Kozloduy nuclear plant in Bulgaria, and that actually links to your question about how the invasion was experienced, throughout the region, because this deal is really, one of our objectives in the region, to bring Europe and some of the members like Bulgaria away from Russian dependence. And that's what we've accomplished, because of course the Kozloduy nuclear plant was relying on Russian fuel. I think on Romania I explained part of our engagement, military and so on, but we've been trying to partner with Romania as well in terms of humanitarian assistance and so on. If I may focus on Moldova, because that's where probably I felt the Russian aggression of Ukraine was deeply felt, experienced, and across the board. As soon as Russia invaded Ukraine, I left with, first with Minister Joly, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, to the base in Mihail Kogalnicianu, but then a couple of days later I accompanied our Minister of International Development, Arjit Sajjan, to Moldova. We went to the border with Ukraine at Palenka. It was barely 2 weeks after the invasion, and you probably remember at that time we thought, Odessa would fall, and then, it was just a matter of hours or even half an hour before, you would see this massive migration to Moldova. It did not happen. We're happy, of course, that it did not happen, but the impact on Moldova has been significant. They've still welcomed about 4%, equivalent of 4% of their population, which meant a lot of solutions in terms of hosting refugees, making sure they were safe. But then we turned to the not so much a military scenario coming from Russia, but more hybrid war. And it was, as you very well know, on energy, food, impact on inflation, humanitarian, again, all, and disinformation. Romania was key in helping Moldova, but what I've seen as well is the resilience and the incredible capabilities of the Moldovan people, the generosity, but also, you know, their government resisting to this threat, making sure that they would still respond to, you know, all the different implications, the challenges that Russia created in the neighborhood. I was actually in Moldova, in Chișinău, for the pro-European rally. It was extremely moving to see all those people coming, you know, from little villages across Moldova and saying, you know, we're all Europeans, and the President Sandu made her speech not only in Romanian and in English, but she also made you know, some segments of her speech were in Russian, in Gagauz, and in Ukrainian, and I think she got, you know, the best ovation when she spoke in Russian, because her message was a message of unity, of solidarity, of, you know, sharing the same values. And I should say that modestly, despite the fact that we're quite far from Moldova, Canada has been contributing. So you probably know that President Sandu was in Canada just mid-May, and she met, of course, with our Governor General, with the Prime Minister, with the Ministers Joly and also Anand, the Minister of Defense. They had a very good, you know, discussion. We also made some important announcements to show that we're by the side of Moldova in this crisis, and we will stay by the side of Moldova. We've also helped to release the pressure, the migration pressure on Moldova, but also on Romania and other countries by offering to Ukrainian refugees this special program of temporary residence in Canada. So far we have received more than 1 million applications, and at least 1/5 of a million, about 200,000 people have already resettled in Canada.
Ambassador, while Moldova is fighting for its European way and it's trying to convince everyone that it's a country of Europe that belongs in the European Union, at the level of the European Union, there are talks from other countries, already members, saying that perhaps we should stop the sanction imposed on Russia because they don't work, and perhaps we should stop as well the sending help to Ukraine because that doesn't help anyone as well. It only continues the war. How does Canada see this situation?
Certainly for Canada, looking at, you know, sanctions, we still believe it's fundamental. We're actually looking at imposing new sanctions. We were talking about Moldova to make sure that you know, the crimes against Ukraine are not committed from Moldova and thanks to some Moldovan money. So for us, reducing or canceling sanctions is not a solution. It's you know, because we believe those sanctions are fundamental, that they still work, and that they will work more and more. But it's also as part of the strong solidarity message. You know, we believe that it's important for the Western community to be together, all behind Ukraine, behind Moldova. You know, Ukraine, Moldova, they're really the, you know, a buffer zone, and they're together protecting us, you know, in the West. Of course, they're protecting Romania on the other side, Poland, but also all of us. And that's a message I have every time I go to Moldova, thanking them because their resilience, their courage, you know, is really at the end of the day protecting us all. And I believe that it's the least that we can do, you know, to continue to impose sanctions and to stand by those sanctions.
NATO stand behind Ukraine with a lot of help, but in the same time we do witness that China is bringing a new idea into the public view, saying that NATO is actually maintaining the state of war by helping Ukraine in fighting for its independence. It's usually forgot to mention this part of Ukraine is fighting for its independence. Viktor Orban, to mention a leader of European Union, is also promoting this idea that weapons should not be sent anymore to Ukraine because this is the only way you can start actually a peace negotiation. What would it mean for the Western, for the free world, I should say, if Ukraine will be left alone in this war?
I think it would be a catastrophe. You know, Ukraine needs to win. You know, you mentioned China, and I think it's key, and I would like to maybe focus on this. To me, having served in both China and Russia, so having a keen interest in what is going on right now, I see very much Russia's aggression of Ukraine as a prelude to a much bigger confrontation worldwide. And I think it's really a confrontation of values, you know, of views of how the world should be governed. And I think what could come next is, believe it or not, because I know what is going on in Ukraine is horrible, and of course I condemn that with all my heart and soul, but we could see something of even bigger proportion, you know, for much longer, with a huge impact on all of us, because China is really looking at another way of, you know, other views, and I believe the tools that they have in their toolkit are more powerful, more broad-ranging than what Russia has deployed in the last 500 days. So, you know, our economic security is at stake, and we're not only talking about energy, we're talking about IT, about, you know, everything. You've seen the surveillance balloons, you know, over North America in February. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So I think, again, solidarity is a key word. We also have, you know, to be discussing with other partners. You know, it should not be a Western, you know, only dialogue. You know, there are other countries. I think we need to engage Africa more. We need to talk to some of our partners in Latin America. You know, Canada has launched a couple of months ago its Indo-Pacific strategy, where, you know, it's two-sided. If we come back to China, we want to engage. It's important to engage. We need to engage China because, of course, they're part of bigger questions like, you know, climate change and, you know, but we also have to be absolutely, we have to be clear-eyed. Mm-hmm. We need to know what we're getting into, and, you know, to be able to deliver strong messages, to be able to share our concerns, and to have a respectful dialogue. But we need to be conscious of what it means, including what's happening here in the region.
The last question of our meeting today is about Romania as well, since your mission is ending. I do remember that in our first interview together, I did ask you about how come the Canadian presence in Romania, Canada being such a big country, is not as big, or at least not as visible. How do you see the ideal relation between Canada and Romania?
I think our bilateral relationship is ideal. You know, we don't have bilateral frictions that I know of. We have, you know, good engagement on trade, security. We're like-minded in terms of values in multilateral fora. Our relationship is well balanced, you know, in all those sectors. It could be bigger, deeper. It can always be that way. But I think it's on the right path. So, you know, I told you about what I believe was successful in my 3-year assignment. I think that you were talking about physical presence or, you know, the footprint. We're actually expanding here at the embassy. So when I arrived, we had 41 employees, and we're going to be about 65 by the end of the summer. So, you know, we have more and more presence because we knew, but I think now we've been able to put that operationally, you know, the critical importance, the geostrategic importance of Romania in this region, especially at this time, you know, of world history. So we're expanding, you know, and that's thanks to all the strengths of Romania, labor-wise. We're expanding on the immigration side, so opening, you know, some new sections, but also on the political side, we will have new employees, you know, covering larger region from Bucharest. So I think that's, you know, a testimony to not only the good relationship that we have with Romania, but also what Romania is offering, is providing, you know, to the diplomatic community, to the Canadian relationship in particular. So I'm very hopeful.
Ambassador, thank you so much for this interview, and best of luck with your next mission.
Thank you.
Atât pentru astăzi, dar rămânem în continuare online pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii și pe contul nostru de Twitter. Revenim cu subiecte noi din lumea diplomației și a politicii externe, vinerea viitoare de la 11:30 și reluare sâmbătă după miezul nopții. La revedere!